Farm for Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm for Profit Podcast. Learn about farming while having a laugh. Farm for Profit Podcast.
Hey, listeners, welcome back to the Farm for Profit Podcast. This is Tanner.
This is Corey.
And what a timely message that we get to deliver today. Hopefully one of those that can be brought into your operation to help it succeed even more than it has been for 2026.
Yeah, it's no question that we're in a little bit darker times in agriculture right now, especially on the row crop side of things. The livestock guys are doing okay, but they've had their tough times too. And we need to really start looking into our operations. We've preached for years. It's always been our core goal to run your farm like a business, as it should. And now it's time to get business-like and see what the heck's going on.
That's right. Listeners, we appreciate your feedback. If topics like this are things you want to hear, make sure you send those to us, farmforprofitllc@gmail.com. You can leave it in the comments on any social media platform, or you can text or leave a voicemail. Got a text message here to share with you, Corey.
That number is 515-207-9640.
What happened to your original TikTok? Did Corey destroy it? Followed by a middle finger emoji.
Well, technically, I myself did not destroy it. Zach Johnson destroyed it himself. We were just a part of it, but it was actually a blessing in disguise. Taught us a lot. Yeah. Followers are a cool thing, right? We love our followers. Please hit the follow button, but interaction is more key, and you guys keep interacting. So even though we have a sixth of the followers we did on TikTok than before, we still have just the same interaction and metrics and impressions and all that. So
that happened a long time ago. So if they just noticed the TikTok was gone, wasn't that like February?
Yeah.
That's still fun.
I appreciate the middle finger too.
We read all text messages, try to respond to all of them as well. So thanks for sending those in. But excited now to bring on to the podcast. Joining us virtually today is Jace Young, founder and CEO of Legacy Farmer. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me, and looking forward to catching up and seeing how things have been going for both of us.
Not his first time on the podcast. We were just bantering back and forth before we got on the mics here, and it was 2022?
Yeah, it's been over 3 years.
So it's about time. And we've seen Jace Young everywhere. So you might as well be back on our podcast.
I guess so. It doesn't seem like it's been 3 years, but time is flying, that's for sure.
All right, so I see a Jordan jersey over your shoulder. Boy, should I know?
Bryant? Is that Kobe Bryant?
So, I got Jordan jersey, and then Kobe Bryant jersey, and then let's see. And then I got, this is all contradictory, just so you guys know. I got a Peyton Manning signed Denver Broncos helmet, and then a Chiefs signed Patrick Mahomes helmet. And so me being in the,
because you got some filter on that's kind of blurs it out. Yeah.
But me being in the middle of Kansas, it's a good way to piss everybody off, because everybody's here is either diehard Broncos fans or diehard Chiefs fans. So I like to go somewhere in the middle, because I'm more of a fan of individual players. If you guys couldn't tell with all the different teams, but it's a good place to be.
Yeah, we find ourselves a fan of individual players, as in Brock Purdy was just out at my farm a few weeks ago, and big Iowa State fan, big Brock Purdy fan, but he's San Francisco 49ers. I grew up more of a Packers fan, and a lot of people would be Chicago Bears or Kansas City Chiefs around here. Yeah, maybe Lions.
Yeah, I was just having that conversation with my wife and my daughters. Being a Cyclone fan now with a bunch of Cyclone athletes in the NBA and the NFL, I don't really care about the team. I just want to see they play well.
Yep. But same with Brock Purdy, though, too. Like, I listen to their interviews and stuff like that. I'm going to judge and be a fan of those players, where you can really tell their characters coming out in those interviews. And, like with Brock, you can tell his homegrown roots are coming out, and how he talks to people, his respect, how he handles himself and things like that. So those are always the things I'm paying attention to.
Meet Maya Cornheads, built better for over 40 years to power through down corn, high yields, and tough fields without flinching.
These durable, low-maintenance heads mean less downtime, less grain loss, and more profit per acre. They have the option for down corn attachments or direct-driven chopping. They ensure that your combine will move smoothly, fast, and full at all times.
Don't just harvest your fields, conquer them. Visit mycornheads.com to find the dealer near you.
He does say, let's go, a lot.
He does say, let's go.
Let's go. Like, how's your crop looking this year? And Corey's like, it's looking pretty good. We're having a lot of guys. He goes, let's go.
It's like you said, Jay. It's like you can just good judge a character. Like, you can tell the guy's just a good guy in front of the camera and behind closed doors, right?
Yep.
And it's pretty crazy. He's like, he was talking about moving to Nashville with George Kittle, and he said George is exactly how he is on camera.
Yeah,
he's just wild.
Yeah.
He's just a crazy individual. So kind of funny.
Shoot.
So reflecting back on what's happened since 2022, give our listeners a little background on Legacy Farmer, and then we'll go back into your background.
Yeah. So, I mean, and again, too, just like rewinding back to that time, right? So Legacy Farmer back in 2022, it was really just me and a few other people on the team, right? And I was the head coach and consultant with our customers. We were still in the middle of building out our software, Farmer Metrics, and getting it to where it's kind of enterprise level for the first time there. And man, there was a lot of uncertainties. But back at that time, again, the team was really small, and we were still trying to figure out, okay, what are all the things we need to add to the software to give our customers the clarity and their finances that we want? What are all the things that we need to add that's going to impress their banks so they can negotiate interest rates and get a better interest rate than other people inside the ag industry? All those things there were still kind of big question marks. And now fast forward to today, it's not just me anymore. We're currently, as of this recording, at a team of 31 people, and we'll probably be at 35 before year end. And, things are just growing and scaling as we've continued to learn more about how significant and how big the problem is that we're facing in the ag industry. Thinking back to 2022, I had a limited view on the problems and challenges that people were facing. And what I mean by that is the financial size of that challenge too, right? And all that stuff has really evolved there. And as we've grown our team and, really expanded there, brought in hundreds of more customers, worked with, heard a lot more stories and read into a lot more financials and situations and things like that. Man, what we're doing now is, to me, is more important than ever, but also to the size of the problem that we're trying to solve. I had no scope of how big it was even back in 2022.
Yeah, and in 2022, things were better, I would say, a little bit,
Yep.
or, in agriculture. So a lot of times that gets masked. But man, we're definitely not getting masked now. The problems are everywhere. I mean, yesterday, Secretary Rollins even announced that they were going to look into seed and input suppliers, stuff like that. Like, I mean, everyone's paying attention now.
Yep. Yeah. Well, also too, and I've talked about this in several of my videos where even back in 2024, right, we started to see downturn in prices really started in 2022, 2023, right? Started to roll over a little bit there. And in 2024, all my content at that time was around how 2025 and 2026 were going to be the years of reckoning, because that was where the runway really ran out for most producers to be able to refinance losses. And we are starting to feel that big time from the banks and stuff that we're in constant communication with. Now it's trickling into the banks and them getting worried about their overall risk of their loan portfolio and how they're looking to their shareholders and things like that. So the problem's even getting bigger now.
What is this problem you keep talking about?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just the inability and, what do I want to say? Lack of knowledge when it comes to farmers and finances and farmers and banking, but also too, I don't want to just put it on the farmers now, because again, the problem's been more exposed to where even on the banking side now, and I've told this to a few of our investors and things like that. Yes, we have a massive problem in the industry with farmers, ranchers, and ag business owners not knowing their numbers. We have just as big, if not bigger of a problem on the banking side of the industry, and these young ag loan officers coming in that don't know ag and are leading people down this path of making multi-million-dollar decisions when they don't know what water they're swimming in, if that makes sense. And that's where I'm talking about with some of the banks and stuff that we're in partnership discussions with and things like that. It's becoming a massive, massive issue for the banks, which is why over the past couple of years, you've seen credit tightening up and banks not being willing to lend out as much money as they were in the past as well.
It's all perspective, right? In 2022, you just got done saying that you didn't know what you knew. Like, so you got to learn at some point, but hopefully you're just not learning and making $1 million bad financial decisions.
Yep. For sure. But yeah, so I mean, it's definitely been eye-opening here as well. And two, again, working with some of these banks and hearing some of the concerns there, they're really good loan officers out there. They're already stacked. Like their plate is already full with the number of customers we're working with, the size of the loan portfolio that they're managing. But again, most of these banks here too, and I'm talking about some of the significant one guys, like some of the big ones, they can't find qualified loan officers to come in and help them manage that portfolio and help their customers make good decisions. And so the risk here has just went up significantly all across the board.
So your team's growing and it's growing quickly.
Yep.
What areas are you growing in?
So I can't hire business coaches and consultants fast enough to handle the amount of customers that we do have coming into the program, which is, it's a great problem to have. What's that?
That's why they can't find the bankers.
Yeah. So
Jace is hiring them all.
But that's actually a great point here, because the majority of the coaches that we are bringing onto the team, they have to have ag finance background, which means they're coming from the bank. But what shocked me though the most is the number of applications we're getting from loan officers and senior or executive level people that have been in the bank for 15 to 20 years and are now looking for another avenue out, because they kind of see the writing on the wall with what's happening there. And also too, when you're in the bank, your hands are kind of tied at what you can and cannot say and how much you can really help your producers, which is, that was the internal conflict that I felt when I was an ag loan officer as well.
Yeah. Well, and Tanner and I have talked, I think we've talked about it on the podcast before, that, why would you want to go into banking right now when you can see the writing on the wall of complete negativity? I mean, I would say all of ag bankers really have a genuine want for their customers to succeed. They're wearing it on their shoulder. They're taking it home with them at night. 1980s were bad for farmers. They were bad for the bankers too, because they were seeing their friends and people in the community go down. Like it's a bad thing, and it goes to mental health too. And so why would you want to put yourself in that position right now?
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah. And what we're hearing too from the banks as well is their turnover with loan officers is extremely high. And we've heard that with our customers as well. Some of our customers are on their third banker in the past 4 years, that they're working with. So and you guys know this, the delicacy of that relationship between farmer and banker is extreme, right? And there's got to be a level of trust there. And when you are a farmer and you've been with this bank maybe for 10 years or 15 years, and all of a sudden now you're on the third loan officer in the past 4 years, that is going to signal some internal issues there.
Yeah. I mean, that switching banks in general, just banks, right? Take the loan officer out is terrible. It's an absolutely terrible process.
Yep.
I would hate to oh my gosh, I can't even fathom it, honestly. And that's why, someone could be better and I wouldn't move, because it's just such a pain in the butt.
Yep.
So when you say you've got banks as clients, are you advising them on how to manage their loan portfolio, or they're your client because they're providing you with customers to?
So this is what I've learned, right? So back when we talked back in 2022, I thought we had one customer, which was just the traditional farmer, rancher, ag business owner. What I've learned over the past couple of years is we're providing a level of service and coaching, essentially, that the banks wish they could provide, but because of regulatory issues and liability issues, they can't. And so this has made me realize is that these ag banks have actually become a second customer for us, because they're looking for an outlet to send their customers to be able to give them the guidance and coaching and consulting and access to resources and stuff that they cannot give them inside the bank as well.
That kind of sounds like why you started Farm for Profit, Tanner.
Yep. Same situation. Started the conference because there needed to be an outlet where I could connect those experts that were saying the things that I wanted to say, put them up on stage, started as a conference, turned into interviews on a podcast. It's a very hands-off form of consulting, right? These are ideas that are being shared. You still have to go make your own judgment yourself, but it's exposure to information. Where I can see what you're doing is very hands-on of, all right, specific to what you're doing, based upon our experience, our plan, our process, here are our recommendations. Like here are things you can try.
Yeah. And it's not based off of just theory with that one person, right? It's based off of what we're learning from the hundreds of other customers that we're working with as well. Right. And what people are doing that's successful versus, something that's not successful and things like that. Versus when I was a loan officer in the bank, I couldn't share any of that information. My hands were tied. Right. And so that's where the big benefit to what we do is come into play. And the more people we get into the program as well, the more valuable it becomes, because that's the more stories, the more lessons, the more access to information there that these customers just can't get anywhere else.
So before we get into what the program is, you just alluded to it. You have a background in finance. So tell us about your background.
Yeah. So, I mean, going clear back to the early days, I grew up on a big multi-million-dollar family farm operation in Western Kansas, small town called Tribune. So small 900-person town. My graduating class at 21. I grew up 15 miles north of town in our feed yard. With the family operation, my granddad started it back in the 50s and built it up to where we had a 14,000 head feed yard. We had 5,000 acres of ground that my two uncles took care of. My dad took care of all the cattle. So I grew up on the feed yard side of things. And then my two aunts worked in the office with my granddad. And for a lot of years, and to the entire community, it was a massively successful operation and continued to grow and scale and things like that. When my granddad got into trouble was in the early 2000s when we started to have, kind of this internet wave and computer wave happen. All of a sudden, local markets became global markets, and there's a lot more volatility in prices and things like that. My granddad at that time fed all of his own cattle. Right. So 14,000 head. Back then it was a $6 million operating line is what my dad tells me, which today, what would that be, a 20 for the same amount of cattle you're feeding? Maybe even more than that.
I was just was doing the math yesterday. It's asinine right now.
Yeah. Just crazy. So, but anyway, so he got into some trouble and ended up, unfortunately the entire operation went bankrupt in 2005. And so I was in high school at the time. So I was with my parents when they got kicked out of their house, walked away from 40 years of their life that they spent at the family farm operation, and had to file Chapter 7. We went through the farm sale, went through packing up the house like you and I were talking about, before the podcast, and going through the old closets downstairs. And anyway,
just
so
in a less fun environment.
Yeah.
Oh man. But I look back at that experience though too, guys. I'm so grateful it happened. There's so many great things that came up from it. Not just with what I'm doing, but even for my parents as well. Like my parents would definitely not be in the position they're in today if the feed yard was still operating. I wouldn't be here as well, because I'd be back in Tribune, Kansas working on the feed yard. It's a guarantee at this point. So yeah. After that experience there, went to college for 4 years, got a degree that I do not use today at all, like everybody else. And then I got into ag banking after that. And so I was in ag banking for about 6 years there. Really important part of my journey, because growing up on the operation, just like you guys, you learn about the operational challenges, but then you combine that with working with family and finances and all that type of stuff. And then all the conflicts that can happen there, and, resentment and those types of things there. Cause my family growing up, I don't know what it was like for you guys, but I saw some major head on collisions between my dad and my granddad, my dad and my brother. Like it just was not friendly fights at all. So a lot of things there. But then stepping into the bank though, that's really when it became full circle for me, because now I started to connect the dots financially. Right. And see the gaps between really just the lack of access to information that my granddad had when he was making the financial decisions that ultimately sunk the family farm operation. But also too, even with the customers I was working with in the bank, right, there's just this gap between farmers and finances, and farmers and banking specifically as well. And now, like I shared a little bit ago, now there's even a gap between bankers and farming. With the struggle on the ag loan officer side. So yeah, that's all those things, brought us to where we're at today. I left the banking industry in 2016. I had 2 babies at home. My wife and I had $4,000 in savings. I had no plan, and I didn't have her permission. So that was the next 2 years of our lives were very rocky there, trying to figure out what I'm going to do and how I can contribute to the ag industry. And then I launched Legacy Farmer in 2019. Everything else is history.
I'm going to go in this room with my Jordan and Bryant jersey, and I'm just going to talk on the microphone.
There you go. That's it. If you ask my wife what I do today, that's what she say I do. Well, I don't know. He does something in his office there and talks on the computer.
Now, I do see you a lot. Corey and I see you a lot. Everybody else sees you a lot making social media posts. A lot of the times you're staring off into space all philosophically, watching somebody else's clip, and then providing some of your own take on. Where did the inspiration for that come from?
Oh, I mean, the content team that we have, I mean, there's several other content producers out there that, they've created their own content by watching somebody else's and then giving their perspective on it and how it's relating to their life or their experience or their business and what they're building currently.
Yeah. Before we get into, I know we said that already, but I want to go back to what you said about the bankruptcy and go back to more perspective. Like you literally said it, you're so happy that it happened, right? For yourself and your parents. And I'm sure at the time it didn't feel like that. Like,
no,
and you are trying, and we are trying to prevent people from going down the same path.
Yep.
But inevitably there's people that are going through it now. There's going to be people that are going to go through it here shortly that don't have a choice. but I do want you to talk about that because it might be a very dark time for them right now. Like, what was the next step?
Yeah. So the thing is, like, you know, and too, I don't know how much you guys talk about God on this podcast or anything like that, but there were, you know, you think about the sequence of events that happened in my life from 2005 up until now. There were certain just pivotal moments that in my mind are inarguable that was divine timing by God, if you know what I mean there.
Yep.
And everything that happened on the farm and everything that my parents went through, yes, it was really dark during that time. I saw my dad go through an identity crisis. You know, he'd been a cattleman for 40 years. We had a team of 15 employees that just worked on the feed yard with him. Some of those people he'd worked with for 25 years. You know, they were family at that point. You know, so you see him go through that, but also too, I saw, you know, my dad after that experience, 2 weeks later after the farm sale, he's driving trash truck for the county right now. Demotion in a lot of ways. I'm not saying that's not a good job or anything like that, but for somebody that goes from running the feed yard and a team of 15 people to that, it's a demotion, right? But I also learned from there, like from him and going through that experiences, there's times in your life where you do have to swallow your ego and you have to do what is required in order to make sure your family's taken care of. And so what I learned from watching them go through that entire experience and why I look back at it and I'm extremely grateful for it is because my dad spent 40 years of his life working on the feed yard. My mom, you know, sacrificed her life and all the opportunities and things that she could have taken advantage of as well to be there. It was very much a traditional farm operation. My granddad expected everybody to come back and contribute to the family farm operation. What I learned through that experience is, you know, you can go through life and trusting that somebody else is watching out for you and trusting that you have a good, safe job and trusting that things are going to work out and stuff like that. But it can still all be ripped away from you right at the same time. And so even though everything that happened wasn't my dad's fault, it was still his responsibility, if that makes sense. Right. It's still his responsibility to be asking questions. And we did an interview with him. This is back in 2020. And my dad is very much like John Dutton, old school, like no crying, like nothing like that. First time I'd seen my dad cry in a lot of years was on that interview because all the old feelings and emotions were coming up. And when the person interviewing him asked him what he would have done differently, he goes, I should have asked a lot more financial questions. I should have understood. I should have been a lot more involved there versus trusting somebody else to do it. So anyways, I talk about all that. And the reason I'm grateful for it is because I think that experience gave me the courage, honestly, to leave the bank and to go try to build my own thing and do my own thing and be in more control of my, you know, financial future versus leaving it to the hands of somebody else as well. And so I go back to that again. That's why I'm so grateful for it. But even too, from 2016 to 2019, Corey, I didn't know how I was going to pay the mortgage. You know, we struggled and our marriage was tested. Everything about our life was tested at that point. And I feel like that period there was God having me honestly earn my stripes because the divine timing of when Legacy Farmer started, when I was in the deepest, darkest pit of my life financially with my marriage and everything like that, there's divine timing there too. And everything started to work from there. So anyways, that's a long answer, but man, there's so many things that happen there.
I love hearing people's story about it because even in dark time, there's light, right? There's things to look forward to, right? There's things beyond the farm, the career, whatever. And I watch these guys on social media that go around and interview billionaires. And it seems like every single one of them has failed massively and went bankrupt at one time. You know, and so it's not that you want to, but it's just part of it sometimes. So, I mean, there's better, greener pastures on there.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to get out.
And that's the thing too, is like even and it's changed my perspective too now, even going through challenges in building Legacy Farmer, right? We're scaling, we're growing, we're adding a lot more people to the team, a lot more customers. As you guys know, that's going to bring on new challenges. And, it's just given me a different perspective on as to when we're going through a dark time, the only way to it is through it. And so most people, though, they run from the dark time, which just, you know, equates to them spending more time in the dark time versus just getting through it and finding that light on the other side there, Corey, like you referenced.
Yeah. Yep.
So I just did a little bit of data diving while you guys were chatting about that because I want to provide some perspective as well. Like we very rarely are doom and gloom, right? We're hopeful as a group on Farm for Profit. That's why we share opportunities and ways that we can help farmers achieve higher levels of profitability. So for perspective over the last 10 years, so back to 2015, 2015, there were 383 Chapter 12 bankruptcy filings in the United States. The worst, or the peak, was 2019 at 595. Over the last 3 years, 2022 was record low since Chapter 12 became a thing. There was only 169. 2023 was the lowest out of the last 20 years. So I said lowest since Chapter 12. They had different forms of bankruptcy.
Yep.
So the lowest in the last 20 years was 2023 with 139. 2024 had 216, so nearly doubled. And so far for 2025, we are exceeding that of 2024, and there's still 3 months to go in the year.
Yep.
Still less than half, well, relatively close to half of what the peak was in 2019.
Yep. And the challenge with this, though, too, is those bankruptcies, though, I wish it would show data on the size of the operation, because that's what I kind of want to emphasize. There's some of the bankruptcies and stuff like that our customers have been sharing with us around them. North Dakota, South Dakota, the size of equipment sales that are happening up there with these operations that have $8 to $15 million in equipment, or tens of millions of dollars in real estate coming up for sale because it's all been, leveraged to the tilt on things. That would be something that's really interesting there to see.
And I would also argue that everyone's complaining right now, but this is I feel like just the start, I guess. Like, we had a chance to lock in some profits on the corn side of things. Wasn't great. Our crop insurance spring price wasn't bad, could always be better. But now we're starting to get high inputs, low prices, not, just getting that full squeeze. I think 26, if things don't turn around here, could potentially look even worse than what you're talking about for 25.
Yep. I completely agree with that. But also, too, that's the sense that we're getting from the banks as well. They are extremely worried and are tightening up credit. And I'm worried about the tens of thousands of operations that are going to go in this year and be looking for another restructure on their line of credit, terming out some of those losses, and banks literally shutting them down.
So you said one of the things in that interview of your dad's, I believe, is that he wished he would have asked more financial questions.
Yep.
What are some examples of those questions that he wished he would have asked?
So my granddad was very protective over the numbers, right? It was more, he started it from nothing. And so when you start it from nothing, he kind of had this ego built into him as well. He was successful for so many years to where it got to a point where it's like anybody in the family that was asking him questions on that, how dare they? Because look at what he's built, look at everything he's created. He knows what he's doing and that type of stuff, right? And so that's a huge lesson I've learned from my granddad is like, get rid of that. There's always an opportunity for you to get taken out. You better, drop the ego and be always willing to learn and grow and adapt and things like that. But with my dad and that experience, and we face this all the time too with these younger kids that are wanting to go back to the operation, one of the biggest challenges that I have with all of this is that a majority of them, they're going back to the operation and making significant lifelong decisions based on a promise of one day getting something or trusting that the numbers are such and such way or whatever that may be there. And I'll give you an example. This was a customer I worked with back in 2021 up in Nebraska. Guy had a successful seed dealership, was making a few $100,000 a year and really built it out, did a great job with it. His wife had a good position in the local hospital, and he packed it up, he sold it, and he moved out to eastern Nebraska to go take over his dad's farm operation, right? And all of this was based on, just trust me and a promise and stuff like that. And he made the massive mistake of not doing any due diligence on the financial picture of the operation. So packs up, moves his family, clear across the state there, gets settled in. And within a few months, he starts to notice that, things may not be as what they've, I've been told that they were over the past few years here. And finally, his dad breaks down and gives him access to the finances. And what do you guys think he found?
Nothing good.
On the verge of bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
On the verge of bankruptcy. And, to the points where it was even, and I told him back then, I was like, this isn't just to the fault of your dad. This is to fault of the banker he's been working with for 15 years as well, because he allowed him to go into this level of debt to the point to where it was putting the bank at risk as well. right? And going into the kind of their safety net. This the whole reason they have the loan to value is so they have a safety net there to collect any assets that they have to sell, and they have their margin for error there. This guy, he loaned him into the bank's margin for error, right? Way past their lines in the sand is what I call it, essentially of where they should be allowing their customers to go. And so anyways, my dad bringing up that question there, I always think about that customer because that's a perfect example as to why, yes, when we're making these big decisions, man, we need to do I don't care if it's family or whatever. If you're telling me something, show me.
Yeah.
Right. Show me the proof.
We've got a lot of young listeners, but what right do they have to ask?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's where, again, it depends on that dynamic there with their parents and things like that. But to me, you either suffer the uncomfortability of having that conversation now, or you suffer the consequences 10 or 15 years later. And guess what? It's not just you that's suffering the consequences. It's your wife that's been there with you, raised kids there. And now your whole personal life is burning to the ground as well if you find out the truth that may not be exactly what you want to hear. Is what we've seen.
We talk about succession planning a lot. It's very, very similar, right? That's just the old way is, just keep your mouth shut and you'll just get what you get. I mean, finances, who's going to take what. And we got to change that stigma. Communication is key. I don't know why. I mean, if you had a plumbing business or you were, a marketing business or anything like that, like it would be a clear finances and all that to all the executive team, all the people that would want to come in and take over. I just don't know why we have that.
Well,
it's weird.
And especially too, right? So, and I think there's this generational weight that even, the parents of today, they're feeling this generational weight from like my granddad's generation to where even if the farm operation, let's say a young cattle company was still operational, right? I was back there and everything, but the financial picture was really bad. My dad, when I talk about generational weight, he would still have this weight and this responsibility from my granddad's life to pass on what he had built, regardless of where it stood at financially today. Even if it was loaded with debt, still feeling this emotional obligation to the generation before you to pass this on. And so, Corey, to your point, that's where I go back to like, if I want my kids to come back to the operation, I should be more than willing to open the books and showcase the opportunity here for them, to make them to really paint the vision in the future for what they could create here if it's a good financial situation. But guess what? If it's not a good financial situation, it's even that much more important there if you want to have a relationship with your kids later in life.
Right.
Because the amount of resentment that happened after our feed yard went under and all the skeletons that came out of the closet after everything, that's why the next 5 years after the feed yard went under was arguably tougher on my parents than going through the farm sale. Because all those things started to come out, unfortunately.
Harvest season is here, and so is your competitive advantage.
That's right. The Estes XPR3 concaves are a total game changer. Think one concave, all crops, no bands, no switching. From wheat to corn, soybeans, you're rolling non-stop. Backed by their patented technology with 250% more threshing surface, you get cleaner grain, fewer fines, and beast-level capacity, all without trading combines.
If you're interested, visit EstesPerformanceConcaves.com to upgrade your combine today. Estes XPR3, harvest smarter, faster, and better. So that's one question that your dad wished he would have gotten answered from his dad.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know if you've got a banker that's leading you into trouble?
Man, so red flags there is they say yes to everything. They're a yes banker or a collateral lender. What's that?
I like those yes bankers.
I know. So that's the biggest red flag, right? Or they're only checking in with you one time per year, and that's line of credit renewal. Other than that, you don't hear from them. The bankers that don't do their inspections and actually protecting the interest of the bank. And so, guys, it's like literally all these small things that give you insight into how they're running the entire bank as a whole, right? And so that's why I talk with a lot of our customers about, because we talk about, overall building a business and having core values and creating a culture and all that type of stuff there as well. And I'm like, okay, so when you walk into your bank, what type of culture do you feel when you walk in there? Do you get return calls to you? Are people giving you the customer service that you want? Is your banker actually teaching you how they're looking at the numbers and how they're walking through and analyzing your operation to determine the interest rate they're giving you and how they're structuring loans? Or Are you not getting any of that? Because if you're not getting any of that, that's a massive red flag, and it tells you how they're running the bank behind closed doors. And that's why, yes, I say yes, we have a massive problem with farmers not knowing their finances. Guys, I'm surprised more banks aren't closing down up to this point. But I think when we go through this next kind of sequence of federal examinations, there's going to be some downgrades across these banks here, and there's going to be some major issues popping up on that side as well, because they haven't done a good job at, essentially doing the due diligence on their customers and protecting their loan portfolio and protecting, more importantly, their customers' deposits.
But is it the banker's job to be teaching you what the numbers mean?
To me, it is, right? So now I think it depends on the individual person, right? I think that's all perspective. I wanted to, and again, that's where I'm like a little bit different, because all the customers that I worked with, it was like I was looking at my parents across the table. So I wanted to make sure they really understood the risks that they were taking here, versus I think the guys that don't have the traditional farm background like we do and have been through some of those dark times there, that they may look at it as just 9 to 5, and hey, you're here to get financing and stuff like that. So to your point, Tanner, why you saying that, our entire objective with what we're doing with Legacy Farmer and Farmer Metrics is, my opinion is that it's the business owner's responsibility to manage the numbers and know exactly what they're doing there, and be, to the point to where they know them so well to where if they want to buy a $2 million piece of ground, they already know what the bank's going to say before they walk in the door. To where this isn't a place where I'm going and asking for money. I'm presenting you with an investment opportunity, because that's really what the banker is at the end of the day. So to your point.
So expand upon what the program offers. That was a good lead in as to what do they get?
Yeah. So, we essentially have two different programs. So we have Legacy Farmer, which is our coaching, consulting, community, plus access to our software. And then we have some customers that just want to buy our software, which is Farmer Metrics there. Now, a majority of our customers, about 98% of them, are coming into the Legacy Farmer program because they want access to the community. They want access to a personal coach and consultant, and they want to be led, and they want that accountability and that discipline, because at the end of the day, what we're really doing is changing the discipline or changing the habits of these customers there, right? So the other issue with the bank is when you're only requiring one annual balance sheet and one annual cash flow projecting, you are conditioning that person how they should run their business. And they think that's okay. Bank signs off on it. They're like, okay, well, I don't need to look at this any longer. That's not the standard that we have with our customers in Legacy Farmer. It's a requirement that we're updating balance sheets and cash flow projections one time per month. We're updating all of our field level numbers as well, so we know exactly what's changing with our projections as far as our crop production and everything there, one time per month, because the operation is changing drastically from month to month to month versus people putting together an annual cash flow. I don't know about you guys, but for a lot of our customers, there's thousands of transactions that are going through the bank account from January 1st to December 31st. So trying to put that all on just one page there, that's a red flag, right? And the other reason that we want people to be updating this stuff is because when we run into challenges, whether we have grain markets rollover or we have this unexpected massive repair bill or something like that, it's important to keep that stuff top of mind, because now it's changing your entire game plan going into the remainder of the year as well, right? And a majority of people, all the numbers, they're out of sight, out of mind. And if their banker checked the box and said, yep, balance sheet's good, annual cash flow projection's good, here's your operating line of credit. For most people, they're like, hey, banker signed off on it. They've been taught, trained, and conditioned that their banker is a trusted business advisor. So, hey, we're good. Let's go farm. And they never look at the numbers again until they're going into renewal next year. And that's why a majority of these farmers and ranchers, Q4 is a terrible time for them from an emotional and stress standpoint, because they may have this hunch that things aren't great, and they're fearful because the truth is going to be shown in the numbers come Q1.
So you're teaching the people these, but are you helping them implement them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we're going through and helping them get completely onboarded into the software to where they know exactly how to update the numbers, but they're also meeting with their coach on a monthly basis as well. Even after the initial onboarding period there, we meet with people a ton in the first 2 months there because it's a major kind of education gap there that we're trying to fill there as well. And then it's just monthly meetings after that. And then we do our weekly community calls where we're covering, whatever specific topic of at that time. But yeah, we want people to know how to use the software to drive daily decisions or bigger decisions inside of the operation, but also to how to essentially steal back all the power and leverage from their bank. because they're so well structured, they're so well organized. They know that they could go to any bank in the region and get financing. And that's the type of power and leverage there and confidence that we want our customers to have too.
So you said having access to the community. We've done an episode on peer groups, but this doesn't sound like a true peer group.
Well, depends on what your definition is there, but like with our community and everything, we're sharing it all, right? It doesn't matter if somebody's going through, and let's say I jump on and do a hot seat with a customer and there's a financial decision that needs to be made with their approval. I open up their books, we pull up farmer metrics, we look at their numbers, and then we talk through this decision, right? But then more than that, we're talking through how's the decision going to impact them from a day-to-day operation standpoint and like their line of credit, things like that. How's it going to impact them from a tax or accounting standpoint? How's it going to impact them from a banking standpoint? Obviously, very important decision there. But then too, we talk about family, right? And these types of decisions and stuff like that as well. So I think what's been really good about our community over the years is we've got more than 2,000 hours of conversations there of people going through these challenges and then other people inside the group sharing what their experience was going through a similar thing, right? And really what not to do. And I probably shared this with you guys on our first podcast because this quote has always stuck with me. It's that, and a majority of success is found in learning what not to do versus learning what to do. Because what to do changes every single year. What makes you successful in farming this year could be completely different next year, depending upon what the economic variables are and factors that are playing into that. But I remember the massive mistakes of my granddad. I remember the mistakes of my parents. I remember the mistakes of anybody, any colleagues or anything like that those stick with me.
Yeah. I've always said that farming has a lot of emotion in it with just all the decisions that we make from a day-to-day basis. I've been saying in the last year or two that I'm trying to eliminate emotional decisions. Have you found that knowing these numbers and your software and your community has taken the emotion out of it?
100% what we're trying to accomplish there. And how I've explained it to other people is I'm trying to be a pattern interrupt in in the typical way and sequence of patterns that a farmer typically makes decisions, right? So when it comes, the people that don't know their finances and don't have access to this education or knowledge, when they want to go buy a big piece of ground, what's the first call that they're making, Corey?
Well, it should be probably to their banker.
Yeah, they're calling their banker and saying, "Hey, I'm looking at this. What do you think?" What's their banker? What the stuff their banker should be asking for is, "Hey, in order for me to help you with that and give you sound advice based on solid numbers, is I need an updated balance sheet and updated cash flow projections. See where you're at right now." Right. But most bankers are not doing that. First off, if the banker says, "Yes, go ahead," then they jump through whatever emotion, whatever fear or anything they had there because the banker said it's okay. And hey, I can get money to do this. So even if there is a problem, I can solve it later. I just need to get the asset or get the piece of ground that in my mind will never come up for sale again. And it fits in perfect with my operation, all that type of stuff there. And so what we're trying to do is be that pattern interrupt and give them the tools, the knowledge, the resources, and everything they need to not need their banker. To say, okay, opportunity came across my desk. We could buy this $2 million piece of ground. Instead of jumping straight to banker and then going and making a commitment and writing a check that my butt can't cash, I'm going to jump in. I'm going to update my numbers myself and go through and look at all the variables here that are coming into play here and how this impacts multiple sides of my operation here. To me, that's the true definition of a business owner, right? You should have enough knowledge and education there to know how this decision is going to impact other areas of your life versus relying on so many other people there.
Yep. No, that's what I've been trying to do. And if you're doing it once a month, I mean, shoot, you can just revert back a week or two, however long ago it was, pretty dang well where you're at and what you're capable of and what you're capable of not doing.
Yep.
So then you call the banker and go, "I'm buying this. Do you want the business?"
Yeah. You see how
do you have the cash to pull out? Because I'm using my cash to go buy this, right?
But it completely changes the dynamic of that relationship though as well, right? To where, again, it goes from, "Hey, will you give me this money?" to, "Hey, here's an investment opportunity. Do you want in or out?"
It's kind of like the Agris Academy guys that we talked to on the grain marketing side. Like it's a completely different mental game. Like you're the boss now. And it's like, I'm separating bases from the Chicago Board of Trade and all that. Like, it's like,
you go in, you negotiate one. You talk about basis today. This is what I want. I've got this grain. You want my grain. You want it in this month.
Yep.
This is the basis that I'm seeking. and then come back.
Yeah, just some simple steps to take on the business side of things. Whether same amount of money in there or assets, all that, it just makes you that much more of a boss.
I had in my notes from the last time that we chatted that one of the things you were striving to do with Legacy Farmer is you considered training the opportunity to teach people how to solve their own problems, because you wanted to build a culture to where they didn't bring you problems. They brought you what they thought was a solution.
Yeah. And so again, that goes back to, do they have the knowledge, education, and resources to solve the problem on their own, and then bring their suggested answers there? And so, what is his name? Dan Martell talks about this. You guys know who that guy is. He wrote a book called Buy Back Your Time. He's more on the traditional, marketing side of things. But anyways, he has a rule called the 1-3-1 rule. And the 1-3-1 rule is that, one, there's a problem. I want you to bring me 3 possible solutions to that problem. And then the one at the bottom is, I want you to bring me your recommendation out of the 3 possible solutions. Right. But in order for somebody to bring that, they got to have enough knowledge, tools and resources there to solve the problem at some level on their own merit. And that's where, again, too, even with our customers, I don't want our customers to always need Legacy Farmer. I want them to come here, get the training and education that's going to serve them for the next several decades into the future, versus always having to come back and ask them. Because if they always have to come back and ask us, then we're not doing our job, period.
I don't know. It sounds like a bad business model. Dave was just talking this morning about repeat customers.
I know. Like the Maya Cornhead way. But one Cornhead,
and they don't need to buy another one. I mean, it's so. But you're hoping they go tell someone else that they know. And
for sure.
Travels. Yeah, it's a small knit group in ag. So
yeah.
And I think your growth shows that you're doing the right thing. I mean, you wouldn't have grown that much if people didn't see the value in it. Yeah,
and the thing is, and I used to say this all the time, like when I would do kind of our sales calls and stuff like that, I want people to, again, not need Legacy Farmer. That way, when I know they're renewing with us, they're here because they want to be here, not because they have to be here. And that's a huge differentiating point there. Whereas like even in the bank, right, I was told at that time, there's certain things we can and can't say. Well, the things we can't say, maybe not, we weren't bound legally to not say them. It was more because we want to protect information from the customer so that they always have to come back. If you guys know what I mean.
Yep.
Right. I do not want to do that at all.
Yep.
So who's the type of customer that's coming to you? Is everybody coming to you in trouble?
No, not necessarily. Right. So it depends on the different challenges that they're facing in the business, right? So we have some guys that are coming to us, they're doing $500K a year in revenue, and it's just them farming, and they're trying to figure out, how do they get stuff structured and organized so they can make clear decisions and trying to scale and when to take advantage of different opportunities. Most biggest customer that we brought on this year is doing $50 million a year in revenue. And so they have
kind of like us.
There you go. So you can imagine the size of team, right, that they had there. Whereas the numbers aren't really the problem with them. It was more of the back end operations, organizing the numbers in a way to where it creates a level playing field where everybody can step into the conversation, if that makes sense, right? And they're bringing all their leadership team in there. It was more of a people problem than it was a financial problem, if that makes sense, right? And so that's where we've started really working with quite a few farmers that are in that situation as well.
Yeah, we can be in that category of not great people managers, right? A lot of family businesses, which makes people management different. I was going to say difficult, but I like the word different better. It can be difficult at the same time, but there's just a lot of different things that go into those considerations. And now you don't have family coming back. So now you actually have to work with employees.
Yep.
I think that hindered a lot of farms' growth. I mean, I've heard my dad and grandpa both say it like, we're fine where we're at, which is fine if you are, but we just don't want to deal with any outside. Yep. We don't want to manage any other people. The people that did took advantage of situations.
And that's where, and this is, it may make some people mad here, but that's why when it comes to being the visionary or CEO of the business, the true visionary or CEO needs to learn how to manage people, because the reality is the farm operation is only going to get so big, or any business for that matter, with one single person trying to do everything. right? In order for us to scale and grow and try to have the impact that we want in Legacy Farmer, I have to do it with the team, and I have to empower the team, and I have to learn how to be a good leader and essentially facilitate the team with every tool, resource, or thing they would need to be really successful in their position within Legacy Farmer. It's the same thing on the farm side as well. But this is where a lot of people, when they're transitioning the operation to the next generation, they think that their son or daughter, because they have the same last name, is qualified to be the true visionary or CEO of the company. And we've had several customers that have come in there where, and this is more, younger part of the generation, the kids that are in their 20s and 30s are coming in and complaining about mom and dad who are not doing anything. They're not trying to grow the operation. They're not willing to take these risks and things like that. This is what happens when you automatically just think that your son or daughter has the characteristics to be a visionary or CEO of the company just because they have your last name, and it's not the same seat. It's not the same role. And so this is where it gets even more difficult, passing on the operation to the next generation, because now you got to start looking at your kids and saying, okay, who's the actual true one that can deal with the weight, the stress, the risk, and lead people at a high level and cast this vision of where we're going as a company that people are going to want to follow. And not every person has those natural characteristics. If you guys get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Our other co-host Dave, who's not here, I've heard him say it quite a few times when he wants to grow. He's like, I want to grow, but maybe I'm not the quarterback. Right.
Guess what? And that doesn't mean Dave's bad at all. Doesn't mean it's just literally how God created us. And we, some of us have certain characteristics and some of us don't. And we've seen a lot of operations, again, they may go under or just not grow for a certain generation if you literally put one of your kids in charge that doesn't have the natural characteristics to really see the vision of the company and be able to execute at a high level and deal with the weight and the stress that comes with that.
Yep. All right. I'm going to tee one up here, so I want you to get ready for a Jace Young legendary viral video clip here. Okay, this has been top of mind. It's been all over the grain market discussion on Facebook Marketplace. We have not maybe lived a little bit, but we did not experience the 80s.
Yep.
Are we facing the 1980s again? If yes, why? If no, why?
So I don't think we're facing it from an interest rate style things, right? So I remember my parents, they got their home loan back at that time and it was 17% interest rate. I just can't even imagine that high of a mortgage there. So I don't think we're facing it from, an interest rate, style problem here. I think we're facing it from a bad debt style problem here, because there is a lot of bad debt out there that these customers and these bankers, whether they want to believe it or not, without help from God, there is no way that those customers are going to pay off that debt. And so I think we're in the midst of seeing this cascading destruction across ag banking is where I would put the problem. So there's an annual report that comes out. I can't even think, I can't, the name of the report is skipping my mind right now, but it talks about the growth in real estate loans versus operating loans. Right. And the report typically showcases, and they try to use it as a way to talk about how strong farming and agriculture is. Right. Well, the thing is when they do this in years as bad as what we're facing this year, it kind of puts up some red flags for me. Right. And so on this chart, though, they see that the total debt in ag or just in ag in general is like $570 billion or something like that. And it's increasing year over year. And it's great because it's all real estate, but then it shows this level balance on operating line of credits that they're just staying level. Well, we all know that can't be true, right? Line of credits are increasing. People are losing money. If they're losing money, where's the money sitting? On the operating line of credit. So what that type of stuff shows me is from a broader landscape, they're not talking about the real estate. They're not talking about who's buying the real estate or how that debt is continuing to increase, because the truth is that the banks are doing nothing but reallocating the debt from the operating line of credit and refinancing it out against customers' long-term real estate. And it goes now in the form of new farm real estate debt or whatever that is, which is why they can sit here and look and say, oh, well, this is great because operating line of credits are staying the same or staying level. But real estate debt is increasing drastically, which means we have a strong economy here and there's a lot of people buying farm ground, stuff like that. That is not the case at all, because the banks are not going to leave that debt on their operating line of credit or even separate out the operating line of credit. They're not going to keep it as a current liability, because now anything that's past due over 90 days, that bank's credit rating is getting dinged now. They're getting watched. So how do they avoid this? They move it off that, term it out against long-term real estate, and now all of a sudden the bank's in the clear. And this is a cycle that has continued to happen for the past 20 or 25 years. And I think we're getting to a breaking point here to where, yeah, farmers are they're going to obviously pay the price for a lot of this stuff. The banks are going to pay the bigger price, in my opinion, there. Or there's going to be a lot of consolidations or whatever.
So yeah, a little difference to that, at least from my understanding and studying of that, is asset values are not plummeting like they did in the 80s.
Yeah.
So where as long as that debt is not greater than the value of the asset, or like you said, sometimes lending into that margin for error, farmers can pay that off. It just means liquidation. Right now, cash flow wise.
Yeah, they can't pay it off with new cash flow.
Correct.
Yep.
So that's the interesting dynamic is there's still a lot of asset growth as far as value or stability wise. Unfortunately, it may cause the need for some liquidation.
So in the book I'm reading right now,
I didn't know you could read.
I'm listening to right now is
I did, Corey.
Right. The book I'm listening to right now is talking about the 80s, and I wanted a different perspective on it. And it really, what I'm taking away from it was a lot of the banks and FMHA, all that kind of stuff they called notes really, really fast. They accelerated so fast. So if you're talking banks are going to be in trouble, could that potentially happen again? Because that's a lot of these farmers weren't that far out. They were not great, but they just needed time.
And so I think it will happen again because we're getting, again, I talked about this going into 2025. It's going to be the year of reckoning because that runway for equity to term out is closing very quickly. And so, yes, Corey, to your point, now they got to call notes quickly, which means they're calling the operating line of credit, which is due and payable within 1 year of signing those documents. And so now farmer is in a situation where they either got to start selling assets and face all of the tax liability for that, any capital gains or whatever that is on the real estate, because we know how much that's went up over the past 10 years. And even after all that's paid, do they still have enough money left over to pay the bank back for the debt sitting on the operating line of credit? So yes, I could completely see how what you're reading right now could come into play today.
Yep. So then what are your top tier clients doing right now?
Like this type of year, hitting singles. And that's what we talk about all the time. The guys that are struggling, and I compare this to my granddad too. When my granddad lost a ton of money in 2004, again, feeding all of his own cattle and things like that, 2005, he tried to hit a home run to cover all the losses and things that he had from the prior years. And the customers of ours today that are just slow and steady year after year, years like this, they're focused on, hey, hitting singles. We break even this year. That's a great year. Guess what? Now we're building up equity still, and we're putting ourselves in a position where when this real estate does come up for sale 2 years from now, or we have an opportunity to buy stuff at a discount, they're in the position to do it. Right. But the guys that are swinging for the fences in years like this because they have no choice, those are the guys that are probably going to end up going under, unfortunately.
Yeah. I loved hitting singles. That was like my home run because I prided myself on base percentage. So I just didn't want to strike out. I just didn't want to strike out. I could fight off until I could walk, or I'd lean into a pitch, or I just wanted to get on base. And I was a team player.
Which just a quasi means you just couldn't hit.
Well, the thing is though too is like, and I read some books a few years back just on blackjack gambling and that type of stuff there as well. And one of it's all the stuff there was relatable to business as well. And the people that win long term in business are the ones that are in the game the longest. But if you're so focused on winning the game too early or hitting that home run in 1 year, those guys are out, right? Versus, okay, if we're looking at this thing from a higher level, we're seeing, okay, overall economy is not great. Let's just focus on hitting singles. We're not looking at making any big purchases or anything this year. We're literally looking for a good, consistent return on the equity on our balance sheet, slow and steady, building trust with our bank by the way as well. And then when that opportunity does come to grow and expand, and grain prices are going back up, we're in a position to act a lot faster than what everybody else is. And the successful ones that we've worked with, we saw this in 21 too. Prices started going up. And what I told all of our group, I said, guys, cash out, hold some cash, pay your taxes, hold some cash. Don't buy shit that you don't need, because we all know we're guilty of doing that inside the ag industry, and just sit and wait. And so the ones that listened, they're in a great position, and they're ready to grow whenever they want to.
If you aren't farming for profit, you won't be farming for long.
And don't buy shit you don't need.
Don't buy shit you don't need.
Damn it.
All stuff that everybody knows is just hard to act on them, right?
I like that stuff. That's the best part of the stuff.
I know.
My daughter's been playing travel softball, and she's learned how to bunt, and she's a damn good bunter. And one of her first bunts, she got thrown out at first, but it was a bunt steal. And that runner that was on first made it all the way to third base and stole home on the next pitch of the next batter.
Yep.
And she was so mad that she got out, didn't get to run the bases. And it's perspective that sometimes you don't realize the impact you have on your operation because of a small decision that you made or an action that you did. And ultimately, it could pay off dividends for the entire future of your family's legacy.
So you might need to have your little brother sacrifice so you can score. Is that what you're saying?
I need you to retire.
Yeah.
Sacrifice this a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that lesson though too, it's so true as well, Tanner. Just because like when I was building Legacy Farmer, I had nothing to lose at that point, right? So I was ready just to throw it all on the table every single year and like, hey, let's see what happens, because I literally had nothing to lose. But what happens though is like now with where we're at with Legacy Farmer now, we have 31 employees. We're going to be at 35 by the end of the year. Going to be pushing 50 something next year. My entire perspective on the business has changed now because not only I'm not the only one that's going to pay the price here, right? There's 35 or 31 currently other people, plus 3 to 4 members of their family that are all going to be impacted by the decisions that I make and how I'm leading. And so anyways, I share all that because there's got to be this transition as a business owner where when you start winning and you start to gain some stability and stuff like that as well, this whole mentality around, oh yeah, just risk it all this year. Like that's got to stop. And now we got to start focusing on the long game here and hitting singles. And that way, when the years do come up, when we have a big opportunity, we can cash in, hopefully.
Who's managing all these people? 35 people is beyond your span of control.
Oh, yeah. No. So I basically, the people in the team that I serve is our entire leadership team, right? But then we have everything broken down as far as tiers on our accountability chart. Everybody's clear on what their roles and responsibilities are. Everybody's clear on who they report to. And then we have set meetings set up every single week where all the check-ins are coming in and that type of stuff as well. So it's man, I don't have everything figured out yet, but it's been a huge learning curve for me to, change from just being a one-man show into leading this size of a team. And that's why I talk so much about that visionary or CEO seat, because I've had to live it now versus 3 years ago when we talked, I was just the coach consultant, working with customers and trying to help people and stuff like that, where now it's a whole different ball game for me. And I share that because there's so many operations out there. It doesn't matter if you're leading 5 people or 30, the same principles apply. Right. You got to lead those people, but also too, you got to be more careful on your decisions because there's other people that are impacted now besides just you.
Yep. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's because we're in growth stage as well. So trying to figure all that out. How does this work? Because we're just a 3-man band really of doing podcasts, and no one ever thought it would come to this. And so we have to run it like a business too.
Well, and I think too, even going back to our feed yard, like I said, my dad had 15 employees. The biggest problem in most of these bigger operations is the lack of clear communication, right? And that's why it's so important for us to set up our accountability chart and have those tiers, because yes, it shows everybody what their job and role is inside the company and who they report to. But more important than that, it shows how flow of communication needs to happen. And what I mean by that is my dad would go out, get the entire team at the feed yard set up and ready to go at 5 a.m. when feed truck drivers showed up and everything like that. Everybody's clear on what they're supposed to do for the day. And then 10 to noon came around. What do you guys think my granddad did? Came down and just blew it all up.
Oh,
he did what's called an end run on my dad and went around him and started telling all the employees all these different things they needed to be working on. So then the employees are sitting there wondering like, well, who do I listen to? I was told this morning by Kevin. Now I'm told this by like, what do we do? And then that impacts every aspect of the business, from culture to efficiency to profitability. So that communication just becomes a major, major player.
Makes sense. I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if our listeners want to take the power back from their banker,
I love you saying that.
how do they reach out to you?
Yeah. So very simply, just go to legacyfarmer.com and hit that apply now button in the top right-hand corner. And that's literally it. You'll fill out an application, get connected with our team, and we'll have an introductory call and see if we're a good fit to work together.
you do have a very simple website.
Yeah, it's very simple. It's intentional too. I do not want a complex website.
It is. It's very clear what Jace and his team do. So I applaud you. One, congrats. I mean, right, growing such a rapidly pace it clearly shows the value that you're bringing to agriculture. Probably more valuable now. Arguably should be valuable at any time, but could be crucial for some of our audience members. And I love the fact that they don't have to be in trouble.
Yep.
We can use this as a stepping stone to take over the world.
You can always get better.
Yep.
Even the best can get better.
Yep.
Look at the jerseys behind him.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Some people are coming in and they're in a great financial position, but they had no way to just organize the finances, you know, and to give them clarity on what their game plan should be. They had no system or structure set up there. Also, too, with our families that want to pass on the operation to the next generation, what we've learned too is Farmer Metrics and our software is a great way to get them involved in the conversation and create that level playing field where that communication can happen. But it's also the way to get the numbers out of the dad's head and get it into a format that everybody else can see and understand there. That way, if anything does happen to the dad, there's a game plan.
Yep.
Great. I love it. Well, we probably shouldn't have waited 3 years, but I'm glad that we got to have another conversation.
Yeah.
Excited to see what's down the road for you. Possibly get this done a little bit sooner on the next time. But I appreciated it. Hopefully you learned a little bit, Corey.
Absolutely. I think it's great. I bet we'll be seeing you soon, and I want to dive more deep into some specific topics because I felt like we were pretty overarching today. Yeah. But there's a ton of directions we can take this.
Yep. Happy to do that and appreciate you guys taking the time and the energy to allow me to be on the podcast in front of your audience today.
You bet. And listeners, appreciate you as always. So until next time, have a good one.
Farm for Profit Podcast. Take a listen, have a blast. Farm for Profit Podcast.